Hello everyone, and welcome to what will probably be the last video that I will send out to everyone as a class. I will go over the grammar exercises that you've done recently and also talk about some of the questions on the grammar test study guide just to give you a leg up for taking that final exam. So, like I said, I will show you some questions from recent homework exercises and we'll look at some of those specific questions on the study guide. I will try to keep this short and sweet. I know we're all very much pressed for time at the end of the semester, so I do appreciate you taking your time to watch this video. So we did modifiers a few weeks ago, and when it comes to the final grammar test, you will not be asked to name specific types of modifiers, but some of the questions that you're going to see do ask you to choose the option that does not have a modifier error in it. So let's look at just a few questions that you did for the modifiers exercises and the answers. Now, I emailed the answer keys out also a few weeks ago. So if you didn't get that, look back through your email and make sure that you're checking your work. A lot of students forgot to identify the type of modifier, which was a requirement for the homework. So just looking at number 1, leaving Starbucks, the latte fell and exploded all over the sidewalk. That is a dangling modifier because it is missing a subject. Now, a lot of you wrote something like, leaving Starbucks, my latte fell and exploded all over the sidewalk. But that correction still implies that a latte was leaving Starbucks by itself and walking out on 2 legs, which we know doesn't happen. So it makes for a funny modifier. So we needed to add the subject in. We needed to add the I here to make it make sense. And I want to skip down and look at number 4. 4 was a squinting modifier. And remember, a squinting modifier is called that because we don't know if the modifier word is looking at the first part of the sentence or the second part of the sentence. So is it that they feel pride because they often save lives, or do they feel pride often because they save lives? In other words, does often refer to the number of lives they save or how they frequently feel pride? Are they frequently proud of themselves? So we're not sure. The meaning can change. It's a little different depending on where you put that word often. So this correction is just one way to fix it. Saving many lives induces pride. So we took the word often out altogether and clarified that this is about saving multiple lives. And that's what makes them proud of themselves. We'll look at a few more examples. Reading a book by the window, my cat jumped onto my lap. That is another dangling modifier because the subject is missing. The person who's actually doing the reading is not in the sentence. Some of you wrote, my cat jumped into my lap while reading a book. But this says the cat was reading a book. My cat jumped into my lap while reading a book. The I is still missing, so we need to add the subject. And then again, for the squinting modifier, is it that we should take a moment to think clearly, or is it clear that taking a moment to think will improve our chances? We don't know from the way the sentence is worded. So if you said taking a moment to think will clearly improve your chances, that fixes it. We added the word will before the second part of the sentence, so we know based on how that word works that clearly now applies to the second part. Okay, and then we had some second person point of view exercises. You will see this on the grammar exam, and basically you want to choose the option that does not have second person in it. So we don't need to spend a ton of time going over these answers because it's pretty clear what makes them correct. They don't use second person. However, I did want to mention that this exercise was also an exercise in wordiness because I wanted to see how many of you were able to correct the sentence by just removing the unnecessary parts and streamlining the sentence structure. This is just one example of doing that. For number one, in this article by Jane Michaels, you see a thorough analysis of the effects of inflation in 2021. Well, there's a lot we actually don't need in that sentence. So the answer in her article, Jane Michaels analyzes the effects of inflation in 2021. It's much less wordy, much more straight and to the point. Some of you wrote, in this article by Jane Michaels, a thorough analysis of the effects of inflation was shown. And I kind of cringed a little bit at the passive voice and the extra words because that construction just really bothers me. Likewise, there are many steps that you must take to rock climb successfully, looking at number 5. In this case, the whole middle of the sentence can just be taken out and we change the order of words a little bit. Successful rock climbing requires several steps. And we've simplified that sentence enormously. And number 6, you must be 21 years old to buy alcohol, but only 18. We need the subject in there somewhere. We can't just remove that construction that contains the second person, but we need to identify exactly who we're talking about. It's not just you, it's U.S. citizens must be 21 years old to buy alcohol, but only 18 to join the military. Some of you wrote for number 5, there are many steps that someone must take. And then people living in the U.S. must be 21 years old to buy alcohol. And those worked. They were correct because they don't have second person, but they could just be a little less wordy. Wordiness is also something you will see on the final grammar test. You will need to choose the option that says whatever the sentence says using the fewest words, using the most clarity of ideas, and avoiding these long, clunky phrases that aren't needed. So you will see that as well. Apostrophes, pretty straightforward here. I'll just remind you of some of the rules. Again, this was sent out a week or two ago, the answer key, so you should have it and you can check your work. Number 1, Blake's dog is named Rocky. We're missing an apostrophe there. Rocky belongs to Blake. That's a straightforward case of possession where we need the apostrophe. Number 2 has 2 errors in it. The film's production costs exceeded its budget by nearly $10 million. Well, films needs to be possessive, and so does its, but IT apostrophe S actually means it is, whereas ITS no apostrophe is the possessive form. And skipping down to number 4, hurricanes form when very warm water meets blah, blah, blah. This puzzles me every time I see it. Sometimes students just throw in an apostrophe when the word needs to be plural, but apostrophes don't make the word plural. There's nothing that belongs to hurricanes in this sentence. We don't need the apostrophe there at all. And finally, we'll look at some questions from the study guide, starting with number 1. Red, like a number of other colors, have many emotional connotations based on history and cultural norms. So the format that you see here is just like the test that you took in the beginning of the semester, that pre-test. And this is what your final test will look like as well, where some of the words or spaces will be underlined, and it's asking you to identify the error. It's asking, where is the error here? And in this case, A, have, is the error, because red, like a number of other colors, should be has many emotional connotations. Red is the subject, the verb should be has. And it's trying to throw you off with this like a number of other colors in the middle there, because you hear the word colors and your brain wants to say have, colors have, but colors is not the subject. The subject is red. Red has many emotional connotations. For number 2, sunshine is the medicine that drives the blues of life away. This is missing quotation marks around the is. Quotation marks have to be used precisely to show the reader without question what words come from someone else. So you have to be careful about using them correctly every time. And then number 3, the governor from Massachusetts alerted several senators about nearby water pollution. The problem here is governor, and it's a problem with capitalization, because when you have words like governor, president, senator, congressperson, if they are not part of a person's specific title, they are considered common nouns. They are proper nouns when they are part of a title. So in number 3, the governor is not named. It just says the governor from Massachusetts. And because it's not a specific title, it needs to be lowercased. Lowercased g. That's why that's a problem. If you want to see some more examples, you can look down here. The latest economic report was praised by the president. Not named, just the president. It is a common noun in that instance. But compare that to the next example. The latest economic report was praised by President Trump. Now we have a full title, a full name, so that gets capitalized because it's a proper noun in that case. Let's look at a few more. Because hiking can take much time and energy, Paul told his campers to get a good night's sleep and eat a healthy breakfast. Well, looking at this, we can already see some missing punctuation going on. The question is, where does it go? And that would be a comma, and that would need to go after the word energy, because that first clause is what's called an introductory clause. And anytime you have an introductory clause like that, that starts a sentence, you need a comma after it. Commas have to go after introductory clauses to separate that introduction from the rest of the sentence. And you can hear it if you say it out loud. You'll hear the pause that you take naturally, because hiking can take much time and energy. And there's where we need the comma. We do not need a comma after sleep. We would only need a comma after sleep if this part was an independent. And we went over those rules way back in the beginning when we did comma splices. For number 8, one way men's healthcare differs from that of women. The answer is A, that is the error. Why? Because the spelling is men's, M-E-N apostrophe S, not M-E-N-S apostrophe. The word men is already plural, so we don't need to put the apostrophe after the S. It's just men's, N apostrophe S. The same is true for the word women's. And then number 9, patrons do not necessarily need to skate good to enjoy their local skating rink. These venues usually offer blah, blah, blah. What's wrong there? It's a problem with the word good, because Good is an adjective, and adjectives modify nouns. The word well is an adverb, and those modify verbs. Verbs like skate. Skate good is an incorrect phrase. It needs to say skate well. Patrons do not necessarily need to skate well. So just some additional examples here. My coach taught me how to run well, not run good. My coach is a good instructor, not well instructor, because this is an adjective. Instructor is a noun, adjective, noun, and then the top one, run is a verb, well is the adverb, verb, adverb. And we're going to look at the last 4 in the study guide. These questions are a little different because you have to correct the version that is underlined. And number 22, when flying to Arizona, Mark chose to purchase his ticket at the airport, checked his bag at the gate, and to get in line early for boarding. Now, when I read that out loud, you should hear something. There is something going on in the sentence. And even if you're not entirely sure what it is, if you hear something that strikes you as off, this is why it's important to proofread by reading out loud, you got to go back and look close at what is happening in the sentence. And in this case, it's a problem with parallel verbs. The verbs have to be the same tense. They have to be the same construction all the way through when you have an items in a series like you do in 22. So the problem is it says Mark chose to purchase, checked his bag, and to get in line. The preposition to is not carried all the way through. And that is also true of A, and I believe A is there, and some of the other ones do this, because if it's correct as is, you would choose the first example, so it just repeats, I think, if I remember correctly, it just repeats the example. And then C is all kinds of jacked up. Mark chose to purchase his ticket at the airport, checking his bag at the gate, and to get in line early for boarding. That's crazy. B has those parallel verbs. Mark chose to purchase his ticket, check his bag, and get in line early. It's the only one where the preposition is here, which is fine because you need the preposition somewhere, but it's not here and it's not here. So those verbs are parallel. 23, not going to spend a ton of time on that because I just did so when we went over modifiers. That's a modifier error. Let's look at 24. Trampolines can be dangerous for young children. Furthermore, safeguards are recommended like a large surrounding net. You will get a few questions that want to test your understanding of these transition words and their meanings, because transitions have different meanings. Some of them indicate similarities, like you're adding on to a point you just made. Some of them indicate cause-effect. Some of them point out a contrast being made, and you need to know which ones do which. So for 24, the answer is as a result. This is a cause-effect relationship. In other words, because trampolines can be dangerous for young children, safeguards are recommended, like a large surrounding net. And then 25, the hotel manager told the attendant that the president wanted to see her. Notice that the president, this is another lowercase example because it's a common noun here. Number 25 wants to see if you can remove all ambiguity from the sentence. Ambiguity means we don't know. It means there is some part of the sentence that We're not sure what that word means or what a pronoun refers to. It's the same problem we have with squinting modifiers. We don't know the true meaning of that sentence. B is the only choice with no ambiguity in the pronouns. Because if this is all you got from the sentence and there's no context here, the her and the she, those pronouns could refer to the manager or the attendant. We're not sure which one. The only one that has a clear meaning is B because it's put in dialogue. And this is the hotel manager speaking to the attendant saying, the president wants to see me. And that clearly refers to the manager because she's speaking to the attendant. But in A, the president wanted to see her. We don't know what that her refers to. Likewise, in C, she was wanted by the president. Okay, that she, again, could be either the attendant or the manager. So you're going to get some questions that want you to choose which one is most clear, most straightforward, and doesn't have that weird ambiguity in it. And finally, a little gift from me to you for watching. Consider it in the spirit of the season. These are some of the more tricky questions on the final exam, and I want to give you the answers to them. So take a minute to jot these down or print it out and have it nearby when you take it. I don't know. I don't care. The answer to question 7 is the. That'll make sense when you see the final. The answer to question 42 is the new apartment house was somewhat big. The answer to question 51 is the view from the edge of the deep canyon is unusually beautiful. Many people agree. I can't just say the answer is A, B, C, D because the answers are going to be shuffled. So for some of you, it'll be B. For some of you, it'll be D. So I'm just giving you the answers verbatim so you can find them and plug them in. And you get 3 points for free just for watching. Very exciting stuff. Okay, good luck on that final exam and congratulations on getting through the semester because that is no small feat. I have really enjoyed working with you guys and I hope you do well on your final assignments and I hope you have a good break. Thanks for watching.